speech is going to be a farce. I think it's going to be a MAGA pep rally, not a serious talk to the nation. I think Donald Trump is going to spew a series of lies about his alignment with Russia, about what he's trying to do to allow Elon Musk to essentially monetize the American government to enrich Musk and his billionaire crowd. And I'm just not going to be a part of that.
That was Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut talking about what he thinks we can expect from President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress on Tuesday and why he's decided to skip what will surely be a performance to rival those nominated for Oscars tonight. Joining me now, Max Rose, former congressman from New York and senior advisor to Vote Vets, a progressive group that supports military families, and Hayes Brown, writer and editor for MSNBC Daily. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming to the Sunday show. So, as you're the only former member of Congress sitting here at the table, Max, your assessment of what Senator Murphy said, do you share that all we're going to see is President Trump spew lies about his alignment with Russia?
Sure. I would defer to the senator who I respect as to what we're going to see. But I'll tell you what we're not going to see. And that is Donald Trump give one proactive proposal to lower costs. We're not going to see him defend at any point the fact that he just fired tens of thousands of veterans, because 50% of our federal workforce are veterans and 50% of those are actually disabled veterans. He's not going to defend the fact that he's literally overseeing right now the destruction of the VA as we know it. And he certainly won't defend the fact that the Biden multi-year stock market rally is apparently ending right before our very eyes, virtually the minute that he assumes the presidency. He won't mention any of that, but he might try to give away a car like Oprah.
Look under your seats. All right. Hey, one of the, I can't remember where I heard this, but we know that Donald Trump loves to talk. Yeah. He gets to a rally and he's there and is talking. You're into hour two. Should we expect him to speak longer than 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to, because I feel like at least we're going into this clear-eyed. None of us are going into this speech on Tuesday the way we did the GOP convention, where there was talk after the assassination attempt. We're going to see new Donald Trump.
I certainly wasn't saying that. I've been watching this movie a long time. I feel like no one here at the table was saying that, but you heard out there that we might see new Donald Trump. We might see a different Donald Trump. This might be the time he becomes the president. No, we're not going to see that. So that speech, you could tell that there were parts in there that were meant to humanize him, to soften him. But the second he could, he went off script and started just jabbering as he normally does. And I feel like we will see that again on Tuesday. I don't know how long he will speak. He is a little low energy these days, so it might be a minute. But he might struggle to really put out the same energy the whole time. But I feel like as long as he has the chance to keep talking, he will. I think this is just going to be one gigantic victory lap where he gets to stand in the place where everyone said he would never be back. Also in the place that was the sign. It's a crime scene from January 6th.
But I'll tell you what we do have to look forward to, and that is once Donald Trump concludes his speech, the cameras will pan to Senator Elissa Slotkin, who will deliver the Democrats' response. Now, Senator Slotkin won Michigan despite the fact that Donald Trump won it as well. She certainly represents, I believe, the next generation or the present generation of leadership for the party. This could be a real turning the page moment for the Democrats.
One more thing before I do this thing that was just handed to me. Should Democrats go to the joint address on Tuesday? Because there's some people who are saying Democrats should not go. Other people are saying they should go, but they should do some form of protest, either turn their backs or leave. If you were still in Congress, would you go?
Absolutely, they should go. And, you know, Democrats should not go as the grand defenders of the status quo or of bureaucracy or anything else that's esoteric. They should go talking about the bread and butter issues, standing up for the issues that Donald Trump, quite frankly, talked about many of them during his presidential campaign, but then proceeded to absolutely ignore them since he was sworn in. So long as they're that party, they'll attend the State of the Union and they're going to win the midterms in a landslide.
So this piece of paper I was just handed, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has ordered U.S. Cyber Command to stand down on offensive cyber operations and information operations against Russia, according to a U.S. official familiar with the matter. Hegseth gave the order to General Tim Haw, the head of Cybercom, in late February. The official said it's not clear how long this order will last. Hayes, I mean, we saw in the Oval Office the realignment of the Western alliance, and we're still seeing it with this news that we have here.
We really are. And I think this is something that I feel like we are seeing. It's part of Donald Trump's victory lap, his revenge campaign. I feel like this order, which had to have come from the top, it can't have come from Pete Hegseth directly, because Pete Hegseth does not care in that way enough to actually stop these operations on his own, of his own volition. This had to have come from the White House. And I think that some of those operations that we've seen, some of which were taken under Joe Biden's term once Russia invaded Ukraine, but a lot of the things that the Pentagon has been doing against Russia have been in the works since, 2016, since the hacking attempt that helped propel Trump to the White House the first time. The first time around, there were people around Trump who could delay or stop him from canceling the sort of operations against Russia that have been taking place. I feel like we're going to see cancellation of sanctions on Russia. We're going to see cancellation of other actions against Russia moving forward. Since Trump, he is of the opinion that the Russia scandal, as he puts it, was fake. And so anything he can do to sort of wipe away the idea that Russia is a bad thing, he will take.
Max, here's the thing. So he's ending the Cyber Command offensive against Russia. I'm thinking of national intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard is now the director of national intelligence. After this blow up in the Oval Office, I've been thinking, what will our allies do now in terms of sharing intelligence with the United States? That's one concern. But then another concern is something that came up yesterday with Congressman Gregory Meeks, Democratic ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. The likelihood that Donald Trump will remove American troops from Europe, from Germany. How concerned are you, Max, about the potential of allies no longer sharing intelligence with us and the United States withdrawing from Germany, which is basically withdrawing from NATO?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I care about. I care about the United States of America not sending men and women to war. I care about the United States of America not having a bloated military budget. I care about us not repeating the mistakes of the war in Iraq, where we went in alone and we ignored intelligence, we fabricated intelligence, we made fun of our allies, we talked about American supremacy. The easiest, the quickest way for us to send men and women to war and to engage in reckless forever war yet again as a nation is to do what Donald Trump is doing. That's why I care about this, not just as a former member of Congress, but also as someone who has been to war myself as an infantry officer. And I saw what men and women went through, not just in my own deployment, but in the myriad of deployments they had gone on before I had the honor of meeting them. That's why we should be opposing what Donald Trump and the Secretary of Defense are doing right now. It is reckless, and it will, if it is not stopped, result in young men and women going into harm's way.
I don't know. With the people around Donald Trump, I don't know how it's going to stop, especially with a Congress that doesn't seem to want to remember that it is a co-equal branch of government.